Ave Maris Stella.
Hello and welcome back to Vatican II in a Year. This is your host, Father Matthew Schneider. I am a priest of the Legionaries of Christ and a theology professor. This is a podcast on the Star Quest Production Network at sqpn.com. Today we're on day 180. We're covering Gravissimum Educationis, document on education, 10 on Catholic higher education. So colleges, seminaries, grad school, community college, tech school, whatever, all those different things. If you want to follow along, we have a reading plan and more details at sqpn.com/Vatican and frmatthewlc.com/Vatican. Yesterday we spoke about how the church should build normal primary and secondary schools, but also specialized ones like trade schools, adult ed, special ed, etc. So today we are going to talk about the Catholic College and Universities. That's the title, Catholic College and Universities. I summarize it Catholic higher ed, same kind of idea. And the summary is that the church is committed to good research in higher ed, theology in all colleges, colleges open to all, and chaplaincies in non-Catholic colleges. So, like many of these paragraphs, it has sub-paragraphs. This time it has 4. Paragraph 10a, Catholic higher ed. In Catholic higher ed, we want people to investigate each field according to the principles, putting knowledge in the whole, right? So we want to gain all kinds of knowledge, not just that. B, every college should have a minimum of 1 theology professor. C, Catholic higher ed should be located all over and available to all. D, bishops should ensure non-Catholic universities have chaplains, Newman centers, or things like that. So let's read 10a. The church is concerned also with schools of higher level, especially colleges and universities. In those schools depend on her, she intends that by their very constitution, individual studies be pursued according to their own principles, method, and liberty of scientific inquiry, in such a way that an ever deeper understanding of these fields may be obtained, and that as questions that are new and current are raised, and investigations carefully made according to the example of the doctrine of the Church, especially of St. Thomas Aquinas, there be a deeper realization of the harmony of faith and science. Thus, there is accomplished a public, enduring, and pervasive influence of the Christian mind in furthering culture, and the students of these institutions are molded into men truly outstanding in their training, ready to undertake weighty responsibilities in society and witness to the faith in the world. So we see here from the beginning the church cares about higher education. She wants good colleges. She wants the different fields to pursue their own methods. Engineering and philosophy and theology and law and business and chemistry all have slightly different things on method. And none of those are incompatible with the truth. They're all the way to get the truth in that reality, because each one is looking for a different type of truth. Not that these truths are a contradiction, but, for example, a lawyer is looking for the truth of what is in accord with the constitution of the country. What is the truth of this case? Things like that. And there's a certain truth in that. Whereas a theologian is looking at the truth of reality. An engineer is looking at the truth of this building will stand up. Things like that, right? So those are all, the truth overall is the combination of all those different ones. And so they need careful investigation, and they have Aquinas as the model, and ultimately we need to promote this idea of the union of faith and science. It goes back to John Paul II, Fides et Ratio. He says, faith and reason are the true wings on which the human spirit rises towards God. And I think it's important when we talk about the truth here to kind of note that it's not in opposition. That is something that unfortunately is one of the top reasons that young people leave the faith, but it's something that's just not even true. So we need to explain how it's not true. And good Catholic colleges explaining this is very helpful in that regard. And obviously, at the end, the last sentence, these colleges should advance the Christian mind, the minds of Christians, the mind of the Christian society, help out society more broadly, not just the Catholic Church, because obviously we want the good of man overall. So B is talking about how every college should have at least 1 theology professors. It says like either a department or a chair, but that means at least 1 theology professor. Let's read it. B, in Catholic universities, where there is no faculty of sacred theology, there should be established an institute or chair of sacred theology in which there should be lectures suited to lay students. Since science advances by means of the investigation, particularly to higher scientific studies, special attention should be given in Catholic universities and colleges to institutions that serve primarily the development of scientific research. This is important that Catholic universities, Catholic institutes, can't be separate from Catholic theology. And that's why they say they need a department or a chair or an institute. And obviously, chair and institute would be like one person, possibly. Chair is usually just one person. Institute might be a smaller number. Well, obviously not less than one. You can't divide people. And in most Catholic colleges, you'll have 1 or 2 required classes. And even if you don't, the notes here, you want to have classes that are available to lay people who are not theologians, people who are studying engineering or education or chemistry or things, or business or things like that. And it's especially important in these institutions more dedicated to technical studies, engineering and things like that. It's that combination of faith and reason working together that we talked about in the last subparagraph. And so this is really important. And it's also good, which will come out in Ex Corde Ecclesiae more, that we need to have good theology professors, because unfortunately, not all theology professors are created equal in their orthodoxy, in their commitment to the truth, in the Catholic truth, the commitment to the catechism, to the doctrines of the church, things like that. And that's a real issue. Obviously, there are things in the catechism that are prudential judgments that actually theologians can disagree with, but I'm talking about more fundamental things in the catechism. That's just a side note for the more technical theological people who are like, no, you don't actually defend every single line of the catechism. Yes, every single line of the catechism is not infallibly defined, and there might be some way that I'm like, that's not the best way to explain it. I would explain it this way rather than how the catechism explains it. And that's perfectly fine as a theologian, that I have some topic I think is better explained than some other way than how the catechism explains it. There's no real issue I have where I think the catechism is like completely wrong. More like they don't explain it as best. Anyways, that's getting a distraction. Let's go back to the topic. Paragraph 10c, Catholic higher education should be located in all places or many places and available to all people. Let's read it. The Sacred Synod heartily recommends that Catholic colleges and universities be conveniently located in different parts of the world, but in such a way that they are outstanding not for their numbers, but for their pursuit of knowledge. Matriculation should be readily available to students of real promise, even though they be of slender means, especially students of the newly emerging nations. So we want colleges where people are. We have them in all different places. My doctoral thesis director, Father Nicanor Austriaco, he was teaching at Providence College, but right when I was defending my thesis, he moved to University of Santo Tomas in Manila. He's Filipino of nationality. I don't know if he was born there or his just family goes back to there. So that's so now he's teaching there. And it's great that we have a Catholic college there in Manila. It's great we have a Catholic college in Providence, Rhode Island too. And we need them in all different places to reach all different people. And then there's that important of accepting the good students, even if they don't have the means, not to just make it a rich person's school. Here they're talking, it's the Catholic thing. We go back to the preferential option for the poor, which we talked about before, making sure that schools are available to people who are not the most well off. Obviously, for university, you could have requirements for academics, and university is not something that's required for everybody or everybody needs to go to. So if somebody doesn't have the academic qualifications, that's perfectly fine that you say no to them. That's not discrimination. That's just how higher education works. So paragraph 10d, bishops should ensure non-Catholic universities have chaplains or Newman centers. The word Newman Center doesn't appear, but that is very much in the U.S. That's the term that's used, and it describes it more than says the word Newman Center. In Canada, it's kind of varied. Some of use Newman Center. Where I went, it was just the University of Calgary Catholic Community, the UCCC, which is what we called ourselves. We didn't call it a Newman Center, but it was functionally the same as what would be called a Newman Center in many American universities. Yes, I took 2 years of engineering before I entered the seminary, so at the local state university, which is University of Calgary. So anyways, D, since the destiny of society and of the church itself is intimately linked with the progress of young people pursuing higher studies, the pastors of the church are to expend their energies not only on the spiritual life of the students who attend Catholic universities, but solicitous for the spiritual formation of all their children. They must see to it, after consultations between bishops, that even at universities that are not Catholic, there should be associations and university centers under Catholic auspices, in which priests, religious, and laity carefully selected and prepared should be give abiding spiritual intellectual assistance to the youth of the university. Whether in Catholic universities or others, Young people of greater ability who seem suited for teaching or research should be especially helped and encouraged to undertake a teaching career. So as society seems to value higher education more and more, it spreads out to more and more people. We mentioned this a few days back, probably a week ago. I gave some of the stats and things like that. As it does that more and more, we need to make sure that the church reaches into more and more in these state universities or these other non-Catholic universities to make sure that they have the students there have that spiritual support, have that way to link faith and reason, have that ability to get the sacraments, to get the spiritual direction, get the talks or kind of spiritual or Christian academic formation they need to correspond to their academic formation, their specific subject. Do you remember way back we noted how we need to include the spiritual formation and the religious formation at the same level as the secular formation, and that's an example of this. Now, we have many students at these colleges, and we need to make sure that there's a lot of spiritual needs. It mentions here chaplains, it mentions other staff, lay, religious, priests, and things like that. And so this is very important. And then the last small sentence talks about the importance of education as a major. We need lots of teachers. We also need lots of professors. And it's good to look at who might be a good professor and things like that. So that's important. So thank you for listening to this episode of Vatican II in a Year. This is a listener-supported podcast. You would donate to help StarCross produce another great podcast at sqpn.com/give. You can give one-time monthly or join the StarCross Patreon. Tomorrow we will conclude Gravissima Educationes with 11 and 12 on the sacred sciences and conclusion. Please join us then to learn more about Vatican II, which provide a blueprint for the Catholic Church. Go to sqpn.com/Vatican, frmatthewlc.com/Vatican, or Vatican SQPN on Facebook and X for more information on the podcast, such as playlists for individual documents and a reading plan. We've also set up an email for questions and comments. It's Vatican2 at my own website, frmatthewlc.com, has a contact form.